Hi, everybody. This is week 2. I assume you can hear me. Open up the chat here. Can I get a confirmation that I can be heard? Yeah, people are still trickling in. So I guess we'll give this a second here. All right, cool. All right. So we are rapidly approaching the midpoint of this session. Just a reminder that the days from Christmas Day to New Year's Day are actually not class days. They're a mid-session break. So it's really a 6-week class this time as opposed to a 5-week class. Just so keep that in front of your mind. Welcome to the exciting week number 2 of IT254 about sales spreadsheets. Start off, has anyone had any specific questions that they didn't send me an email they would like to have asked at this point about last week's material? All right, so prior class, somebody asked me why I chose this particular time slot, but yeah. So, all right, so it's week 2. We're going to get into defining tables using text functions and subtotals. I'm fairly certain you guys are able to see the screen. Yeah, another person joined us. So, prior discussion board was about introducing yourself. So, having the ability to get that noise. Sorry, Vincent. Okay. So about introducing yourself as a discussion board, getting to know a little bit about your classmates, your cohorts, your some interesting people. I think there's one name I may have recognized from a prior class, but yeah, we have roughly 42-ish people in this class. So it's interesting to always get to know who you're taking classes with, especially those who can eventually. You'd be surprised. There's a couple that as a doctoral student actually got to know a couple of the people in several classes that I had with them, and that turned out to be beneficial to both of us because we were able to help each other when it mattered. In the end, though, unfortunately, he didn't finish because he died in a tragic accident about a month before graduation, or he would have completed his dissertation. So that was kind of unfortunate. Telepath, you guys got the chance to look at the original first couple of sessions in Telepath. They were about data manipulation and setting up cells. This week's discussion board we'll get to in a second, but so far we've had an excellent start to the activities so far, and as far as hours spent by students in general collectively. So I think we started off pretty good, pretty strong for the first week in the Telepath. I added a bunch of the Muse website links to the web page in announcements. Here's another copy of several of those same links that I collected over the last several years related to this particular course. And here, so you can take the PDF file you download from this and be able to get to these, or you can go up there and check the announcements page. But either way, these are very useful into learning the course material used here. Today, we're going to get a little bit to graphs, creation of graphs, and how you can actually use those somewhat. So or tables for that matter. So the discussion board assignments this week is about what you would do or what do you need to know when you want to create a defined table? So, or within a table, how can you make use for that, right? Or what would you need for Excel to give you some ideas on how to use it for personal use? Like in the business case, you can use it for things like inventory, for personnel data management, for tracking time cards, for payroll. In personal life, you can do things like family budgets. You can figure out amortization schedules for a home. You can use it to um, track your budgets all the way down to like individual items, or you can use it for like what I do in the case of managing eBay auctions. Right? There's lots of different things you can use with spreadsheets for personal use. So in there you'll see the chapters 3 4 from the workbook for reading, and 9 and 19 from the conditional formatting. I will let you guys worry about the videos here either at the end of today or on your own time. There's 2 videos here that you can go check from YouTube. One is about how to create tables, which I'll show you here in a second. Anyways, and the other one is about how about formatting cells, which I got a little bit into last time. So the 8 sessions or 8 not sessions activities within Unit 2 of IntelliPath are how to use various text functions, some usage of text functions within business applications, subtotals, conditional formatting, data tools, along those lines, right? Some of the questions that I've been asked by students based on their difficulty with some of the questions that IntelliPath was, because it didn't always give you clear understanding in some of it based on reading, unless you did all the reading. So, like, what types of inputs are allowed into spreadsheets? Well, values are an input, but there's also a possibility of functions or formulas, right? So the problem is that a function is where you build mathematical or things you do with values. So you want functions to be set up in one aspect, either to create sum totals, you can use it for figuring out exponentials, those kinds of things. But at the same time, what you really are entering to create data as inputs is really the values of those data that you need to use within those various functions, right? So that's why while it can be misleading from inside a telepath, the correct answer is actually values, since that is a type of input as opposed to a function which takes an input and produces an output. So all right, the videos that you can see Unit 2 is useful for the discussion boards. I would certainly encourage you to go watch them at least. At the same time, they are additional material, so they are useful to help you understand what's going on. And there is, somebody had asked me before, is how can you do like headers and footers within a spreadsheet? So for that kind of purpose, I'm going to actually flip over to spreadsheet now. So if anyone really wanted to do a header and footer, either they can give it some kind of name here, and within that name you can go like merge center, where you can just build yourself a field or a thing within that, or you can even do multiple sections where you can fill it in as such. Or the more traditional method, that's the easy method, but the more traditional method and more classical method for how spreadsheets you use to build it, you have to go to page layout, and that's where you have headers and you have footers that then would show up on every page, right? So as you can see, you get every page here. Just because I clicked over there, it made a page temporarily. Now, subtotals. Another question in telepath that was confusing to several students I noticed previously is categorical things. It's like, what can be done before using a subtotal? Well, the thing is that you have to make sure your categories are correctly managed or correctly organized so that a subtotal feature works for a category. So the answer according to that is that the category needs to have duplicate values. That doesn't make a ton of sense. So ultimately, an example in a total, in this case here, if I did say subtotal of a range of values, right? So if I can spell subtotal correctly, here we go. I could say this here enters in says too few arguments, because all I did was take a set of things. But if I say that as my range, right? No, that's wrong. This has a total of a sum of these values. But if I needed to say have just throwing some random words in here. If I wanted to make a subtotal, I think I'm doing this right. Function number reference. C8. Where did I get these backwards? So I guess we're doing it live. Forgot how to use subtotal correctly. Anyways, the point is you need to have some values that's based on categories so that you can have values in categories actually correctly do it for purposes of figuring out how the subtotal should matter. I'll try this one last time. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah, sub doesn't really care about the context of what of data, where subtotal does care about. And the thing is, it only works with unformatted stuff, so you have to do it within non-tabular form. So there's ways once you get into tabular form, you can have the subtotals come up for you automatically. Then it actually tracks it within every modification you make from that point. But back to the original question is like one thing you need to do is make sure that you have categories that have duplicate values, so that has a way to figure out how to sorting a value and assign it to an area itself. Mid function. Another question that was asked is how does the mid function actually work? Mid function deals with characters and positions of characters within things. So if I wanted to say, if I wanted to grab out the word rent from here, I could say mid starting from 1, give me 4 characters. Text from, doing this stuff backwards today for some reason. So from a cell, starting at character 1, give me the next 4 characters. If I wanted to say take mortgage in this context, I could say start at same thing, start at cell 6, right? And then I would need to have say do 20 characters, grab the rest of the string. Or if you just wanted to say, give me the middle 3 characters starting at cell 3, you could set that up if you needed to parse out data for purposes like pulling names out of things for inventory spreadsheets, or the whatnot, right? So you can do that. You can actually have it all kinds of manipulations of pieces and data. So that's kind of what the mid function does. So it lets you extrapolate or pull out data from internal to a given text position based on what cell you're using the data from, then the first character you want, and the number of characters you want after that, right? So does not require to be at the middle of a string. A lot of people do it in order to take out like the first X number of characters. Some people use the mid function for the purposes of like personnel data management to parse up either phone numbers or social security numbers into 3 different values, so you can sort people more correctly. You can also do it based on you can use other variables to extrapolate based on parsing of character types. So you can like look for all of the first characters up to a certain space if you want to. That's another way to do it. There is ways to do VB code. I did mention before that you can use VB code for things like one I use it at work a lot is turning saving off a whole bunch of these here as individual CSV files, or another one that actually produces a page of hyperlinks for every single worksheet there. So I have a way to go back and forth quickly across all the worksheets as opposed to having to manually click through it, because when you get to a lot of them and it goes farther than the bar is, you have to do a lot of clicking in order to find a particular spreadsheet you need to look for. That's another useful thing for VB code. You can also change the way sorting functions work if you needed to sort things with like first letter apostrophe, second letter, as opposed to what Excel will do or Word does, which is ignore the apostrophe altogether and just sort based on letters only. So you can customize that. So there's lots of different things. You can actually look up those kinds of pieces from inside of on Google for figuring it out. I think the one thing I was going to show last week, but I didn't show was if you do the tag or something. Did I read the right picture? That's it. Picture. If I do that, then it'll ask me from, say, a file, and I can go to, don't think you'll be able to see this, but brief second here. Actually, I'm looking over here. Oh, there it goes. There we go. So in case you want to throw some kind of logo up on there with inside of a spreadsheet, if you want to make something fancy, you could put logos up here in the headers so that you only see it when you like set it to a page you want to have as a page layout, and you can use it printing with the logos. So, which is kind of nice. Another thing you can do is you can change format for saying this. If you needed this cell, it's instead of replicating that whole cell, right? Text wise, you could say, in the event I want to make it all uppercase text, you can do that. So you can change formats, which is also then another ways to manipulate stuff. Same thing with lower, does something very similar. Makes it all lowercase as opposed to the default camel case, which is how things are used. So concatenate is a way to merge text, right, left, mid. I showed you the example mid, left and right does the same kind of things, except for where you start from the point. Find lets you look for specific text within a particular field. So it's good for if you want to split up data, if you needed to like do management of course data, of personnel data for at a business, you can do that to manipulate things. So another video for the purposes of, we may come back to one of these today. All right. Another thing, if I needed to like make a pull down, for instance, if I wanted to do, I could say, not conditional formatting. I want data validation. So I can say, if I go to data validation and I say list, I can then specify, say these are the list of my values that I want to have here. And then I could quite literally have a pull down list where I can enter whatever value I want, right? Of course, default and it's whatever the cell type is. So in the event I needed to create a pull down list, I can use to from inventory or from pricing or whatever, I could have values of things, and I could or I could have products of things, and then I could do a VLOOKUP of that against the table. So if I said VLOOKUP of this value, this table array, I think that's, of course, do it wrong. I'm looking silly is what I'm doing. But in the case of this, if you were like in this particular question where it was talking about the number of hours you wanted to look up employees, the thing is that you can have data validation set up so that you can confirm that the only numbers are entered by doing forcing it to be any value or changing it from any value to whole numbers. You can force a correct entry into that, because one thing in the pull down menus, right, is if it's not a valid entry, you'll get data validation restrictions prevent you from putting invalid data into a cell. So I can't, doesn't matter if it's letters or numbers, if it's not part of the pull down list, it's not a valid entry. So that's where that actually comes into play, is you can set it up so you can have a dedicated inserts for so you can have your data entry be managed such that you can only introduce valid data as opposed to garbage data. So like I said, right is the number of cells, location of the cell, and the number of characters in the end. That gives you that counts it backwards. So in the case of ABCE 1 2 3 4 5, if right 2, then the answer is 45 because it's the last 2 characters of the right command. Hope that all made sense. Fill is an interesting piece in that you could have, say, if I wanted to do something like this, I could, in theory, fill down series. It will fill out from here. It'll take the first one down, or if I had 2 separate ones, I could do that kind of thing to give you a fill of numerical additions. If just throw that out. All right, so another thing you can do with fill. Sorry. You can choose types. You could change your step values. You can make it so you can do based on dates. So you can do all kinds of different things with it. So now as far as where was I? So one of the big topics is different types of charts, right? So any questions on anything I showed you so far until I go to this section of it, of the discussion here? Other than I looked silly because I couldn't do V lookup correctly. All right. Well, hope I didn't put all y'all to sleep already. Okay. So, all right. So if I had this bit of data, right, and I wanted to turn it into a pie graph or a pie chart. So there's different types of charts we have to do. There's pie charts, bar charts, column charts, line charts, scatter plots. Those are the majority of the basic chart types that you'll see in life. There are other ones like three-dimensional bars, trending charts, surface heat maps. So I'll show you some of those someday too. But the biggest ones is pie chart and column chart is generally the most used. And to understand a pie chart, if I took this bit of data, right, and I wanted to say, I convert this into a table. So it is data-wise from range. Right, it now knows that I have, don't need this, discard that. I now know it has this types of charts, but if I then wanted to make like a pie chart, right? Create a chart. And from there, I say, give me chart type that. Well, this is a pie chart. So in here, I then suddenly have, let's go to this mode. Where in here, I can see visually a percentage of how big a particular category is. So in this context here, it's saying this light blue, which is this section here, I'm going to pull out, is $1,200 out of the total of the budget. Say we have a $2,950 for, or let's make it an even number, 55. 1,200 out of a $3,000 budget. We can deduce that if we were spending $3,000 a month, if we had a budget of $3,000 a month, we were spending $1,200 on rent. I could say that this divided by this really fine. Yes, I know it's a circular reference. Another thing is if you needed to make it so your pull downs don't change values from cells, that's what the dollar signs are here for. It basically makes it so that the all your formulas stay the same. So with this in mind, I could say column 1 is type, or yeah, type, budget, and percentage, right? So that in general, I know that $1,200 out of this is roughly 40% of my overall budget in this piece. Now, if you notice, this here is saying picked up the total because I did that drag down. So if I want to get rid of that, I could do this, which eliminates that piece. And so, but I could also then prove that everything sums up to 100 because pie chart's always based on 100%, no matter what you do. So ultimately, if this is saying a $1,200 budget on rent over the course of a $3,000 total piece, we're spending $1,200 a month on a rent. We are technically house poor or mortgage poor at that point, because anything beyond a 25% of your mortgage actually makes you what they refer to as house poor. Effectively, you don't have enough money to ensure that you can cover all your expenses when you're spending that much each month just on your rental piece to survive, right? So in that context, it's like, well, if that's big as your budget is, and as ridiculous as car payments are nowadays, because something like I read something like a month or two ago that the new car loan average amount is closing in $800 a month over 80 months, which is absolutely ridiculous. And honestly, if you're spending more than 20% on your car, you're also, or 20% of your entire annual income on a vehicle, you're considered excessively top heavy in vehicles too. So there's your personal finance lesson for the day. So sometimes we have to take the budget. What do we have? What do we need? The goal is you need to ultimately have not a zero sum budget, but you need to have something where you have free cash, right, of some percentage. And say we are looking for something along the lines of, we need around 10% of our budget being free cash that we can use for anything we need. So in those contexts, sometimes we need to figure out how to trim back other categories by cutting pieces, cutting utilities, cutting back on food, maybe even downsizing our rent, so that we can get to the point where our budget total to include about 10% free spending cash is under what we can need to deal to spend or survive every month, right? So and in a lot of cases, the easiest thing to cut is literally not having a car payment anymore. I haven't actually had a car payment myself in 15ish years now, so that also means you don't buy new, because really you have to be making something like $300,000-$400,000 to justify a new car nowadays. Because of the percentage of a vehicle and how much the value is. So, and also the fact that new cars drop in value. About 50% of their value drops in the first 5,000 miles you drive in a car. So it's usually better to buy a car that's about 3 years old for that reason. Far better from a financial standpoint, because it doesn't lose value as much. But anyways, I mean, the point is that you can set this up as a pie chart. You can see your percentage of a whole 100% that you can toy with to figure out how do I want to break up my budget each month so that I can figure out how much I'm spending in my category, how much free cash available do I need to cover unexpected expenses, such as increases in food. Maybe you have an emergency, maybe you have to go buy medicine you weren't planning on buying, you have to go see a doctor. So you need free cash every month too in order to make sure that you can cover those types of expenses. And to set up so that you can get all of your categories to fit within that. So this is what a pie chart looks like, right? It's there to give you a percentage of the whole. It gives you an idea where you take numbers and collectively, this is what it is out of 100% pie, how it's being sliced up. Now, if you wanted to break that into, say, other values, or if you want to break it into daily activities, you can break it into any number of flat category and number mixtures, such that that you wanted to do that. Now, if you wanted to reverse that and say, I wanted to say I work 33% of my day, I sleep 30% of my day, you can also do it in reverse order, where you can do it based on percentages, and then this will come up and you can have it also tell you that particular piece of the pie chart breaking up in that matter, right? So you can figure out how you spend up your time in this way as well, or how much time you need to spend on particular activities in order to figure out how to best handle your daily activities, right? So alternately, there's things called bar charts, which is where you can take values against two different types of trends, an x-axis, which in this case here, say the sales by region. Your x-axis is dollar values, and you see, I just made these all dollars, and all the graphics are modified on their own because you set them up to be interactive charts. But as a single bar chart, you have an x-axis of dollar value and a y-axis of region, or over here it's by quarterly sales. So you can this two-dimensional data, and you can look at it in two different views to figure out how you are doing in a given how you're doing based on my Zoom just crashed arbitrarily. That's weird. Huh. Okay. I assume everybody's still connected.
Yes.
Okay. That was
Yes,
weird.
I'm here too.
Okay. Yeah, I just had a Zoom crash suddenly and came back on its own. Okay. But yeah, you can figure this out. Now, if you want to do a stack chart, this is a stack chart where you actually put the numbers on top of each other across quarters. So you can see by region in colors for total sales of a given quarter, right? So I could say across this, my total sales here is about $2,085,000 on a given line. If I go like this, right? Yeah, it says total. Oh, that's what I'm going across things. All right, so my total of all my North sales is just over 2 million, but all of my total sales in a given quarter, based on the subtotal that this does for you down in the bottom right corner here, of 1.715 million in quarter one. So you can get a feel for effectively how you're doing. What did that? Oh, let's hit the wrong key or something.
Professor, I don't think I can see your screen unless it's something wrong on my end. I can see all of us in the chat room on the entirety of my screen.
Arrangement of your spreadsheet. You might
Yes, that's
find
the
these
first.
little rooms just get in the way.
It's best to remove subtotals from your spreadsheet before you make any other big changes. To remove subtotals,
All right, somebody has audio
all
on
you have
too.
to do is click the subtotal command, then click the button that says remove.
That's weird. Great. Yeah, apparently when it crashes, it loses my sharing too. All right. Assuming you can see the screen again.
We can.
All right. All right. Okay, so what I was saying was up here in the left upper corner of the left here is where you have your data, right? You have all these numerical datas. And then we have the one to the immediate right of that is basically region, where it goes XYZ, your Y axis being north, south, east, west, and then you can invert that for your quarterly sales, the one following that. So if you then one below it is where you have the quarterly stack sales. So you can have your quarter shown this way as this thing. So these are different types of bars. So that's the stacked bar, a couple of other bars, and you have like clustering bars where it shows the bars individually against each other. So you can get different perspectives on the same amount of data for decisions or business logic at a glance type dashboards. And it's useful for giving you a feel for how sales is doing in various areas, how your region's doing over time or comparatively against other pieces, right? So that's an example of how bar charts can be used to give you information at a glance that you can make decisions on, right? Did any questions come out of that anybody needs answered? Because I'm doing a terrible job, it feels like. All right. Well, line charts are another type of chart you'll see. This is here where you have through points in time, in this case is based on quarters, and you have sales and you have the colors for the individual people. So you can see how they compare against each other over time on the left chart, each color being represented in a different employee. So if I zoom in a little bit, you can see that we'll take yellow, which is Byron. You can see that his sales points for each quarter is pretty consistent at 3,000, 3,100, 3,600, 3,700. He's a pretty consistent performer here, right? Where if you look at, say, Sam, he seems to vary greatly in his performance based on quarter. And then you get the wondering, well, why is that? And what causes that? So you may need to dig into, is it location? Is it region? Is it matter of effort? Did he spend time taking like a large, did he take a lot of PTO during the second quarter? You can go back and figure out answers to why he's underperforming during the middle part of the second quarter. Or if you need to, you can go figure out, well, is Tom just underperforming outright? And you need to address that with either training or maybe better people, right? So you can take this kind of data and put it into a quarterly sales by person, and you can extrapolate how your team does, or you can figure out where you have weaknesses in your team that you can need to address so you can improve your overall sales with the business, right? Additionally, you can, if you wanted to stack sales by a person, right, you can figure out how his sales has grown progressively with or all of the sales in the quarter, how they all get collectively put together. So in the case of a stack sales isn't as useful for determining how an individual does, but more of how a team does, because this number here is basically each of these numbers are then accumulated on top of each other going across. So whereas here you're comparing them against each other, this is useful, but the when it's stack sales view in a line chart is not as useful because it doesn't really give it obfuscates the information you're actually trying to find. So additionally, line charts can also be used in trending charts where they can predict how sales are going in the future with enough business logic. And that's where scatter plots come into play, right? So scatter plots are where you take some set of numbers that say correlate, right? Let's go. And you could have your one axis is based on, say the x-axis here is based on 0 through 6, and your y-axis then is based on an actual number. And when those two intersect is when it drops a plot point on this piece. So you can do that such that you can set it up so that a lot of times in numerical analysis, you can have it be like a y would be, we'll say y is the 2 times what an x value is, right? 2 times the x value. And then you can say all the way down, and your plot will show you a trending of a straight line up there, right? In this case. So this is how the plots points work. Now, there's also negative correlation, which is basically means this is positive correlation, which means it always goes generally up as things are made. So it's more of a trending upward line. Negative correlations where they have a negative trending line downward. A no correlation is basically when it just looks like random dots on the grid. A lot of times when you do things like numerical analysis on large sets of data, you'll have a lot of scatter plots like this that may or may not be correlated based on whether or not those x and y's are built on a formula that correlate to each other or not. So ultimately, that's kind of what the correlation is. A no correlation is more typical of a scatter plot that where the x and the y are independent of each other at all times. Positive and negative correlation is usually the y is somewhat dependent on the existence of an x and what that value of x is. So in this case, this is just straight data to give you an idea what the plot would look like when you manipulate that data, but it's not really a formula for it. But like I said, numerical analysis, they get into a lot of that formulation. So all that makes sense so far? All right. Every chart has a title, a legend, an axis, and a plot area. So I could quite literally go in here, and if I wanted to, I could, you know how I change it over here in this particular, didn't want to do that. I changed this particular cell here, but it didn't actually change the table. If I go here, I can change the name of the tables without actually it mattering over here. So that's where the title of the chart comes in. So you can actually get your charts to look pretty. Then you can actually get them to give you useful information in that context. You can also add words and sections to where this is, or you can change the view a little bit if you wanted to make it look prettier or more granular. Whatever makes it more visually pleasing for you. But that's the chart area. How you can change different things for different pieces of information within the chart. So if you wanted to, you could actually get all your different components all labeled to do that. So another question that somebody had was they wanted to understand why in Telepath it asked for how they got 45-degree angle clockwise view, and it was called Sunday. The answer was Sunday as opposed to Monday. The thing is clockwise, it has to do with going from start to finish of a word, top to bottom, left to right. So when you think of that, it's the start of the word is always at the upper portion. So if you consider that like the 12 o'clock range, then you go in around the clock to spell out your letters. That's why it actually points downward, 45-degree angle from the corner down south, because that's clockwise how the word is spelled out. Now it's not clear that the same couldn't be applied from Monday if Monday started at 6, then going upwards, right? But or 9 to 12, because of angling it does that, but that's not how it's intended to be read. So clockwise is an arrow labeling angled at 45 degrees, top to bottom, left to right, and that's why Sunday is technically correct. So other pieces of how to create charts. Well, I showed you it by typing in the word chart. If you wanted to do it this way, you can go to design on your data set, and you can see the different types of charts to choose from. Alternatively, if I wanted to, I could right click this, say change chart type on any chart, and then it gives up that same kind of thing. So I could change it to a pie, area, graph. Let's do one with better color. All right, in here, let's go to surface area. So in a surface area, I can choose a wireframe look, but I don't have enough data for that specific piece here. Okay, well. All right, well, let's not do surface area with that then. But you can tell by the preview whether or not it's actually capable of doing this. You have a sunburst, so you also refer to it as a donut look. You can have this kind of an area map where it grows and shrinks over time based on that. It correlates to each of those types of pieces. So this is another way you can make an area map, so you can get a different view as a 3-dimensional view of your data. And once you have a 3-dimensional view of the data, then you can actually have a surface view. So let's see if I can rotate this any. No, it's not letting me rotate it. But like I said, when you're looking at like flat ranges and what numbers, a surface area is kind of a contoured map. So if you ever looked at a terrain map from above on like mountains and whatnot, if you could think of how to view data in that manner, it's useful in some places, but not as unless you have more detail of a group of data to get to that point. So but you can play with this and figure out, all right, what kind of charts you like in your general. Histograms, waterfalls, funnels. You can have combination charts, surface areas, scatter plots. So you can, if you want to, you can always right click and just change the different types. But up here, if you do it under the ribbon bar, that's under design, you can get some basic defaults of a given type, and then you can select how you want it to look. So then you can add more things on top of it by using word art type styles to paste words and sections on top of areas of it. So I showed you what I showed you in the pie chart here, percentages and how that works, so you get a feel for the view of a pie chart. Basically, it's the amount where it's the amount total based or either that by base or a percentage of amount divided by base times 100. That's where the percentage actually shows up. So so if I took those numbers, created into a pie chart, it's what I did, right? So these are the numbers and there's, and it's basically the percentage here of the size of the slices is that amount divided times 100. So you got to see how that all played out fairly quickly in real time. Purposes of bar charts is that it's easy to show trends and columns that show you frequencies. So you can do good comparative analysis on dashboard as a view type looks with those types of numbers. So you can build yourself a sales or data at a glance where you can come up with answers quickly. Horizontal lines, these are line charts, is usually a horizontal axis, and that represents time. Time. And a vertical axis, you represent a value or a quantity. So it's useful of that thing. So all right, Aaron, yeah, we can spend a little time doing that if you need to. And then the scatter plots is where you have a X value and a Y value and how they correlate or don't correlate to each other in order to build grids. So any questions on any of the stuff that I showed you? Assuming you can still see the screens on the PowerPoint package at this point. Okay. Well, I this is all the material I had planned for this week. If you, Aaron, if you want to hang on, we can talk a little bit more offline. Beyond that, I mean, I hope you guys can make use of this. The discussion board, remember, it's about the discussion board is about how you would make use of those types of charts for some personal usage, or come up with a couple of different things you can use personal charts for. I would definitely encourage you, since I ran out of time enough, so I'm not going to go back to the videos, but there's 3 videos that I have linked inside of this that I would recommend you at least watching to help you with any pieces in the class for this particular unit. Beyond that, if nobody has any questions, thanks for your time.
I had a question. How would you answer that first bulletin for a discussion board? What recommendations would you give someone for creating a defined table?
What recommendation would you give for someone for defining? All right, so I would say if their goal is to, they're doing it over time, then they need values that apply to time. If they're doing it as a quantity, then they need something that would define, basically define your X and Y axes before you try to figure out your data set, right? So the thing is figuring out what would you need in order to put into a given piece. So if I go back to the pie chart, right? The goal is trying to figure out a family budget. The decision is to use a pie chart because it shows you a percentage of the whole. So your goal is to figure out what categories and then what the values are against those categories, so it can give you the percentage of those values against the whole. Did that answer the question you're asking?
Yes, I understand.
Okay.
Thanks.
Does the textbooks have questions to answer to show comprehension? I don't remember that being in the textbooks. The textbooks were primarily of a how to do something, or this is what you can get out of that particular topic. It's primarily a how to. Definitely the workbook. I think the textbook is like that as well. I don't think it's a matter of I don't think it gives you like end of chapter quizzes, if that's what you're asking. All right.
Do you have like a workshop where you do one-on-one like Aaron asked?
I mean, I can certainly do that if you want.
I mean, I feel like I would also benefit a lot from like a little bit more of explanation like Aaron would.
Okay. All right. Do you guys have time now to do it?
I'm here, yeah.
I mean, I would say maybe a little bit later. I just woke up a little bit ago, so I
Okay.
just want to be in a better. Just want to be able to follow a little bit more, a little bit better.
Okay. All right, Aaron, if you can come up with some questions specifically, and we can set up a time where we can do a one-on-one if you want.
Okay.
Uh,
Where were those videos from the lecture?
so if you're seeing the screen right now, right?
Yeah.
You see this blue text? Those are YouTube links inside of the PowerPoint package I have here. I upload this PowerPoint package as a PDF to the learning materials that you can then download it from, and that'll give you these links.
The blue text where it says expectations.
No, where it says tables or formatting cells.
Okay.
So you see
Can
where my
you click
cursor
on
is?
that?
Yeah, you can click on those. So if I click on it, let's get verification. If I click on it, I will bring up my browser as being shared here. So going to that, turn off the volume. So it brings you to YouTube, right? On one of those links. And then I could say, at that link, this here is one of the videos from inside the tables one here, where it'll show you, it'll take you to this and it'll give you a demonstration of this guy building a data set of prices and apples. So I turned off the audio, but basically he's just showing you how you can actually get to the point where you can put in numbers of quantities and dollar values, and then using the fill function, it'll fill out all those data for you so that you can then use a mathematical formula to basically figure out your inventory pricing across the board and how much your sales is.
Yeah,
So
I still don't see how to look at the videos, because where it says tables and formatting cells,
uh-huh.
I can't click on that. It doesn't bring up a link. That's on your end.
If
So
you
you have
go
to-
on discussion board and you hit like view,
Oh, it's on the discussion board. I thought it was literally
Yeah.
on the screen in front of me.
No, it's the screen I'm presenting to you is non-interactive. So
Yeah.
discussion board has the link, or in the PDF itself that you can download will have those links.
Okay,
So-
I'm sorry. That makes sense.
All right, so where do you see the PDF? All right, so if I go to, I assume you can see the portal again, right? If you go
Yeah.
to learning materials here, and if you open up unit 1, you'll see that it says a week 1 Tuesday. That's last week's PDF that I uploaded, right? I will upload this week's PDF here in a few minutes after I shut down the recording.
That's the
But it'll-
video.
That's the actual package we went through last time.
Okay.
So I will upload this week's package here shortly at the end of this class. And then you can go to unit 2, find something that'll say IT254 week 2, and you could download that thing. But if you do, this here brings you the PDF file that you can open.
Would
And
you
in-
say the discussion board is better to complete before you do the multiple choice assignment thing?
You talk from a telepath?
Yeah, it's better to do the discussion board and then the telepath.
I don't know if one's better than the other. They're just both activities you need to do.
Right.
I don't think there's, the discussion boards are worth 33% of your grade. The telepath's worth 67% of your grade. So if you want to prioritize them, then you can look at it that way. It's, the discussion boards are easy, but I don't think there's a priority. You have to do one before the other.
Okay.
But like I said, I went to last week's PDF file. I downloaded it, right? And it has the interactive links there you can go click on.
Okay.
So you'll see that after I upload this week's PDF as well. So, all right.
Sometimes if I do the IntelliPath first, I get a lot of answers to how to respond to my discussion board.
I can understand that. Yeah, that makes sense.
So when could we schedule a one-on-one? I mean, later today or tomorrow?
Send me an email on a good time for you.
Sure.
I generally work from I'm in Mountain Standard Time, and I generally have to be in the office between 8 in the morning to about 6:37 at night.
So is that an hour behind Central Time, Mountain Time?
Yeah, so right now it's 7 o'clock, 7:07 my time. It should be 8:07 Central Time.
Right.
So yeah, so I'm an hour earlier than Central.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm in the office around 7 p.m. So if I can set up a one-on-one time. Just email me and we can get that set up on any given
All right.
weekday.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. All right. Other than that, I guess if no other questions, I'll go ahead and end the recording here. And Malin, you said you wanted to go over something.
Yeah, I just wanted like a little bit of like practice. Like I kind of learned by like hands-on doing, and this Excel thing, it's a little, it's a lot.
Okay.
But
All
those
right.
videos are very useful though. Those discussion board videos, I've watched them already. They're really good.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. All right. All right. Well, May, if you just want to hang on a second here, and everyone else, thanks for attending, and I will see you all next week.